Hi everybody and welcome back to Tunes Reviews. Today we are going to be going over the top 10 spring fragrances of 2021. This isn't to say that they're the best in the entire world. I mean, it's all subjective and it's based on your taste in the moment. And a lot of the time, how we're feeling from moment to moment is very turbulent. So I'm very much someone who wears fragrance based on mood, and I can tell you that my mood has been all over the place this year. I will say that I have noticed that I'm still sticking to very cozy scents. The weather seems like it has a mind of its own up here. It's sporadic all over the place in upstate New York. So that being said, I noticed that I have definitely stuck to a lot of cozier scents. You're gonna see that they're not necessarily what you'd be considering as heavy in like the fall and winter as far as like fall and winter staples go, but these are still probably heavier fragrances that would fall in line for a spring and summer lineup. You want to get out? I'll help you out. There you go. Before we get too far, I do want to mention that I have several honorable mentions to kick it off with the video. So let's go. The first honorable mention that I have here is a fragrance that I have very much started to consider to be one of my signature scents. I wear it so often. People love this stuff. You will notice that this fragrance does very well for itself on a lot of different folks' top 10 spring videos, as well as kind of mentioned as a fragrance that you could utilize all year long. It's very much a Swiss Army knife. And that fragrance is none other than the ever so lovely Baccarat Rouge 540. Now, as you can see, I've put a nice little dent into that. I swear by this fragrance. I finished a full 70 ml bottle in a year. And then when I went to go restock, I figured I'd get the big bottle because I used it so often. And as you can see again, I've only been using this since November, and yeah, this is one that just does the trick. If you're looking for that cotton candy, mouth-watering, red fruit and sugar bomb fragrance, this stuff is so good and it leaves such a great scent trail. If you haven't gotten your nose on it, please do. It's absolutely magnificent. The next honorable mention is a fragrance that I think would do very well for itself in the fall as well. This is a newer acquisition for me, so it's not something that I have a whole lot of experience with, but I've known the fragrance and have been anticipating picking it up for some time now. But it's just one that I think is absolutely divine, absolutely delicious. It has a juicy orange quality about it, along with some sugar and some tobacco and some ginger. It's very fresh, it's very snappy, and it's just very gorgeous. And I think that this is the perfect time of year, spring. Une Nuit à Doha. Stephane Humbert Lucas 777 is a brand that I think is incredibly good, incredibly high quality. This fragrance happens to be probably my favorite from the line. This one and Black Gemstone really captured my heart pretty swiftly. But this one is just so good. It's very, very juicy, very snappy. That combination of like this orange liqueur almost with that snappy, zesty ginger, and the combination of the tobacco and some vanilla really makes this almost like a fresh tobacco. I will say the tobacco is not very prominent on my skin. It's a lot more about that orange and ginger combination, and it is just so good. This fragrance, the reason why it reminds me of spring so much is because when I first picked up a bottle of this and first fell head over heels in love with this, it was spring. It was transitioning from the February, brisk winter wonderland into kind of like that rainy, dreary, sometimes the birds are chirping, the sun's out, combination of weather. And this fragrance is something that I feel like anyone can pull off at all. If you like vanilla fragrances, if you like orange, this is one of the greatest fragrances that I've ever come across in my entire journey. For me personally, this is my favorite fragrance from this house, Profumum Roma. And this stuff just does the trick. If you're kind of lingering in that realm of like 40 to 60 degree weather, this stuff just does perfect. It is a wonderful combination, like I said, of orange and vanilla. It makes it come across as almost an orange cake feel. And that is Dolce and Fundo. As you can see, I'm almost out of this bottle as well. I just bought this 6 months ago. This is the 18 ml travel spray. And I think it's time to go back to their 100 ml bottles, because I keep on buying these and then I'm out of it within like 6 months. So I may as well just get the big guy, right? But this fragrance has so much positive energy to it. I have so many fond memories wearing this stuff earlier on. I've had this fragrance now for about 7-8 years, and I've worn it consistently, and I think that this is a wonderful spring fragrance. Probably is an unlikely face to be shown on this fragrance list. It's something that I think works incredibly well year-round. This is probably, you know, one of many of their Swiss Army knives in this fragrance house. I think that they're such an interesting, unique, niche house that really kind of captures very, very artisanal, wonderfully done fragrance compositions, to the point where you can wear them, most of them, year-round, because they have such a striking quality about them that's so different from most other fragrance houses. Now this one, you would think would be marketed for something closer to like summer when you see what I'm about to mention here. But really, I feel like this fragrance does super, super well in the fall and the spring as well. This is a fragrance that I've had for about 8 months now. It is a fragrance that my fiance got me for our anniversary, and mentioning that, maybe you've heard me mention that before, but this is Zoologist Squid. Zoologist Squid is such a wonderful incense, sea salt, a little bit of fruit like bergamot or something along those lines, citrusy, and just ink. I mean, this stuff is just exquisite to me. I think that if you're looking for something that's along the lines of a Bleu de Chanel, but it has a much more enriching DNA, something that's a lot more complicated, a lot more complex, a lot more zany, this is something to check out. I really do. I'm not comparing the two whatsoever, Bleu de Chanel and Zoologist Squid, in the sense that like they're super, super close to each other's DNA. However, I would wholeheartedly think that if you like fragrances like Bleu de Chanel, where it's that combination of blue notes with like incense, heavier notes, definitely give this one a check. It is so, so good. It's such a wonderfully done fragrance composition where the freshness is never left behind and compromised for those deeper, darker notes. It's such a wonderful melody of both playing together well. The next fragrance on my list is for those nights, those wonderful nights, those cool, brisk, dark nights where you're looking at the stars and you're having a bonfire with a bunch of your friends and, you know, causing a little bit of ruckus, you know, playful ruckus, good ruckus, not bad ruckus. And you just want to wear something that's like casual and reminds you of those wonderful spring and summer nights where you're roasting marshmallows and drinking whiskey around the campfire with all your friends. This is by Farmacia SS, and this is called Whiskey Oud. Whiskey Oud is pretty much what the name says. I've only seen one review of this on YouTube, and I'm gonna be completely honest. I didn't agree with what was said whatsoever. So if you come across that particular review, that's not how I feel about the fragrance whatsoever. However, what I think about this is essentially, okay, Whiskey Oud is whiskey and bonfire. If you're looking for a bonfire fragrance, I think that this is absolutely 100% a wonderful choice. Coming in at number 8 is for those hotter days. Again, very turbulent weather in upstate New York. It goes from, 40 degrees one day to maybe 2 or 3 days later, it could be 75 to 80 degrees. Very, very interesting how the weather does that and has a mind of its own up here. But this is for those stickier, hotter days. This is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. This is in my top 5 favorite summer, hot weather type fragrances. And this isn't going anywhere. I mean, this is one of my first reviews on this channel, and it is just a masterpiece to me. This is, of course, by the master perfumer Jean-Claude Elena, Bigarade Concentré by Frederic Malle. If you're in the market for a dirty citrus fragrance, a citrus fragrance that has a little bit more depth, I sincerely think you should check out Bigarade Concentré. This fragrance has such an ability to just refresh you on those hotter days where you're kind of miserable and, you know, those sweat beads keep on dripping off your eyebrow and you're just so unpleasantly hot and you just need a nice refresher. This is one of those types of fragrances. I think it's absolutely exquisite. It's just upscale enough to where you could wear this with a suit and a tie. It's something that I think that has multiple purposes in the wardrobe, and for that reason, I think that this is a wonderful choice for spring. Fragrance that I think gets way too much flack for no good reason. It is a fragrance that I think does so very well for itself in the department of compliments and casual wear. It just matches so well with something like a t-shirt and a jean jacket, or something along those lines. Maybe like a bomber jacket with, you know, jeans, something along those lines where you're just keeping it very casual and you're hanging out with your buddies. This fragrance does have a quality about it that comes across as being very, very sexy. So it has a casual, sexy vibe to it. I think you could wear this on a more casual date and or just when you're taking it around and doing your thing. This is none other than Amorous Homme by Mason Francis Kirchen. I think that this is an outstanding fragrance. This is getting a lot of use out of me. This is a really nice, clean, amorous, almost papyrus type feel with some coconut and some other added elements like tonka that sweeten it up. Very wonderful, very refreshing, very clean, very crisp. Such a wonderful fragrance that I think is just totally overlooked all the time. I see online how this fragrance is just bashed and I really don't understand why. So I'm here to correct that. Give this one a check. It is so good, it lasts and projects forever, and I think that this is a wonderful, wonderful springtime fragrance. I didn't want to believe the hype on this fragrance. So many people love this stuff, and sometimes when I see that kind of love, I become standoffish, you know, because I become a little apprehensive on to whether or not it will live up to my expectation as to how it's been painted in my head based on all the recommendations, etc. Now, this is one that I was incredibly pleasantly surprised by. One that I think deserves every bit of hype that it possesses, and one that I think you should certainly check out before it is too late, because I do believe that this entire line is being discontinued, which is really unfortunate. This is by John Varvatos, and this is Artisan Pure. This is one of my favorite finds of the last 6 months. It's certainly one of the best designer fragrances that I've found in the last 6 months. I'm really seeing a lackluster job when it comes to designer stuff, and I'm kind of like teetering more and more into the realm of niche because I just reject what crap has been coming out as far as designer fragrances go. But this is really good. It's a nice spicy, almost citrus basket, and it's just basically all those fresh citruses cut up, and you just threw a bunch of spice on it. It's just really refreshing, super well done. The longevity is decent, the projection is decent. Just a really well-rounded, invigorating fragrance, and I think that this is going to do super well in the summer as well. I haven't owned this for the summer season, but I do plan on wearing this a lot for some of those hotter days in the spring. Now, I know that for a lot of people, you know, I may create these lists and some folks really just don't see how I wear some of these things because of the marketing, as far as like, that's a fall fragrance and that's a winter fragrance. I'm here to tell you that I just don't believe in a lot of that malarkey. I think that there's so many good fragrances out there that just do better on your skin when there's heat involved, such as Musc Ravageur. I think that that's wonderfully utilized in the summertime. It's one of my favorite fragrances to wear in the summertime. However, everyone tells you that it's a fall and winter-based fragrance. The same goes for this, okay? Now, this fragrance is marketed, well, maybe not necessarily marketed, but the folks, the influencers on YouTube continually state that this fragrance is a fall fragrance. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I see that this has a fall vibe. However, for me, this is one of the most well-done, multi-purposeful fragrances to come out of the house of Zerjoff. Now, for me, they have quite a few fragrances that suit many occasions. This one, however, I think is probably the pinnacle of being a fragrance that is totally useful in most situations. This is a Swiss Army knife. I think that this is gonna do so well in the spring. It's because of the lavender note that really makes this bright and fresh and that honey note just makes it invigorating and mouth-watering. And there's almost a transparency that comes along with this fragrance that makes it a little watery. If you couldn't guess already, this is Zerjoff Naxos. I was turned on to this fragrance actually by a good friend of mine, Joe Maskey. He had sent me I think it was a 3 or 5 ml sample of this very generously, and I absolutely fell in love with it. This is just such a wonderful floral honey tobacco, and it is so well done. Highly recommend for spring. If you haven't tried wearing this in the spring, check it out. It's gonna do super well, I promise you. This fragrance, most people consider to be the spring fragrance, okay? Like the spring fragrance, which I wholeheartedly agree with. There just happens to be 2 other fragrances that I wear more. This stuff is definitely a contender for being one of the greatest masterpieces of all time. And yeah, without further ado, this is Creed's Green Irish Tweed, coming in at number 3. Yeah, to me, this is just like a crisp spring day. It's so good. That lemon verbena, you know, those florals, the green grass vibe, the ambergris that gives it a little muskiness. It is just a wonderful, wonderful concoction. It's also a wonderful signature fragrance. If you're someone that's really trying to stick to collecting maybe like 4 to 5 bottles, I highly recommend checking out Green Irish Tweed because it is so universally appealing to everyone else, on top of the fact that you can use this year-round. I can't say enough good about Green Irish Tweed. I definitely have to revisit this fragrance for a re-review at some point. I did review it some time ago, but you know, I just feel like with these fragrances that have such a pivotal impression on the fragrance community, sometimes need to be revisited because they're classics, and you know, I could talk about classics all day long. Coming in at number 2 is a fragrance that you've heard me talk about multiple times. Yeah, what, yeah, what, yeah. Probably my favorite from the entire house. At least it is definitely tied, okay, with Tonka Imperial. And if that didn't give it away, then I'm not sure, but this comes in at number 2 because this is one of my favorite times during the year to wear this because of how floral and green it is, but it still has that wonderfully intoxicating vanilla thing going on. So again, for some of those colder days, this just does really well. This is none other than Angelique Noir. Let's see if I can get this so that you can read it. Angelique Noir. I absolutely love this fragrance. I'm intoxicated by this stuff every single time I wear it. This is one of my ultimate favorite fragrances of all time. It is a masterpiece, a 12 out of 10. All right, if you haven't tried it, get your nose on it. If you're a guy and you're afraid of florals, what are you waiting for? Just go do it. Check it out. It is so good, so scrumptious, and definitely perfect for the spring season. And last but certainly not least, whoa boy, do I love this fragrance. I think it is absolutely divine. This fragrance is gonna do so well for itself. If you guys haven't heard of this brand yet, you must be living under a rock because it is just so heavily discussed at this point. And it's something that I certainly adore. I think there's probably 3 fragrances from this house that I absolutely love and consider to be bottle worthy. This one just happens to be my favorite, and I think it lives up to the hype. And I think that it's a fragrance that's not only something that can be utilized in the fall like its marketing would suggest or like its note list would suggest. I think that this is a perfect rainy, steamy, rainy day in the spring where you can see the steam coming off the asphalt because it's a little bit hotter out, but it's just got done having a thunderstorm. That's kind of what this reminds me of. This is none other than BDK's Gris Charnel. You guys, this stuff is just intoxicating. If you like fig, if you like tea, if you like tonka, if you like sandalwood, just check this out. It is just such a scrumptious concoction of all those notes, and it is so well done. It's sexy. It's sexy. It's very, to me, it's casual. It doesn't read as being like upper scale in the sense of you need to be wearing something fancy or whatever. This is kind of one of those fragrances, again, where the sexiness is brought out by how comfortable you are and how confident you are. Not that it takes a confident person to wear this fragrance, because I think anyone can pull this off. However, this fragrance just enables that confidence to come out in such a bright way. And I think that this is one of the best fragrances on the market right now to be utilized for the spring, and I cannot suggest this stuff enough. I think it is wonderful. I hope you all enjoyed my top 10 spring fragrance video. I would love to hear what you're gonna be wearing for the spring and even the summer. I'm sure that you're gonna see some of these fragrances that were on this list on my summer list as well, because, you know, things like Bigarade Concentré and Artisan Pure and Grenache Tweed are really meant for those hotter months throughout the year. But that being said, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on my list and what your fragrances are that you're going to be pulling out of your personal arsenal that you're going to be utilizing for the spring of 2021. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope you all have been well, and I will see you all soon. Bye.